This is the Sony ZV E10 from 2020, but how good is it in 2023? You can find them for around 650 euros for the body only and around 700 euros with the lens. The build of the camera is decent, it's made from plastic and it feels a little bit cheap if you compare it to some other Sony cameras, but that doesn't mean it's terrible, it's decent. It feels a little bit plasticky, you can get some small scratches on there pretty easily. As you can see, I already have a scratch on there, which is a bit annoying, but I think that the look of the camera is very nice, the design of it. And it also has some good ports, so it has a microphone jack, so you can plug in a microphone, but it also has a headphone jack, so you can listen to the audio, and I think it's zero latency. But there's also a small HDMI port and a USB-C port. Here you have a nice manual dial with a photo key, video key and a button to switch between modes, which is nice. However, if you want to switch between aperture priority and manual mode or something else, I've set it to the center button, so when I press it, I can switch between those modes. Aperture priority, shutter, but also full manual mode, which is nice. And when you are in the full manual mode, you can also set your ISO to auto. And Sony advertises this camera like it's a cheap beginner's camera. However, it has a lot of nice features in here. And I definitely don't think it is only for beginners, but also if you're a little bit more advanced and know about cameras, then this can still be a nice option. Of course, it doesn't have all the professional features. So for example, for video shooting, it doesn't have ND filters. It does have a lot of rolling shutter in 4K. The build quality isn't the best. The battery life isn't amazing. And you can swap between lenses, which means that you can also put a much better lens on here and get a nicer image. But the kit lens is definitely not terrible either. And it has a microphone here on the top and a multi-interface shoe, so you can connect Sony microphones and then you can just plug it in and don't need any cables, which is a very nice feature. But you can also put on a dead cat, so it will block out the wind, which is included. And the microphone is pretty decent. And the screen is in my opinion also great for a camera. It is a touchscreen, however the user interface is with all the buttons. But if you want to focus, then you can tap and then it will track a subject. One thing that I find very annoying is that when you start recording you can't change your white balance. So you have to do that before you start recording, and that can be very annoying. The screen is very nice and it can go pretty bright. And you can set also the brightness in the settings. It isn't extremely bright and there is also no viewfinder. And it's also a flip screen. So if you want to film yourself or put it at an angle so you can look up or down, put it like this. Or if you want to protect the screen, then you can also close it like this. Like I said, it has swappable lenses, so you can switch between multiple lenses. But the kit lens that's included is a 16 to 50 mm, which is about a 2.5 times zoom. f3.5 to 5.6 isn't the brightest, but it's still decent and you can definitely get some nice background separation. However, the minimum focus distance is pretty far away, which is very annoying. The zoom is very fast and it's a power zoom. However, it also does make noise when you zoom in and out. So you will hear that in the recording because the lens is very close to the microphone. But I think this is a decent kit lens, especially for the price. But you just need to keep in mind that you won't get the most out of focus background and that the minimum focus distance is pretty far away. It's I think 25 centimeters. It doesn't have a ton of contrast and it isn't extremely sharp in the corners. But for a kit lens, I think it is a nice one. And in terms of video quality, it can shoot up to 4K at 30 FPS, or you can choose for 1080p, and both of them are in XAVC-S. There's also a 120 FPS mode if you are in Full HD, so you can get 4 times slow motion. I think the 4K on this camera looks very nice and very detailed. It also has picture profile, so you can change the look of what you want. So it has HLG but also S-Log. But keep in mind that this camera only shoots in 8-bit, so you can't do a lot of color grading because the image might break if you tweak it a lot. Stabilisation is also pretty decent. It has a normal mode and active. It is a digital stabilization, but there is a very big crop, which is a bit annoying. The low light of this camera is definitely pretty good. Of course it depends on which lens you have on here. With a standard kit lens on the widest angle it is pretty good. But if you want better low light, then you definitely want to get an f2 or an f1.8 lens instead of a f3.5. and you can shoot up to 1600 with it looking great, and it will look okay until ISO 4000. The autofocus on this camera is amazing in my opinion, and it shows the focus correct pretty often. And it also has a product showcase feature, and if you click that it will try to focus on the closest thing. Overall the autofocus is great, and I also like that you have autofocus settings. So this means you can choose if you want very fast or very slow autofocus. And you can also choose if you want it to stay locked on a single object, or that it can quickly go around and switch between different objects. So should you buy one in 2023? I think yes, but it definitely depends on what you are doing. If you need a camera with a large zoom, then this isn't the camera for you. However, if you need a camera that has a nice blurry background, you want a good auto mode but also full manual control, a very good autofocus, custom picture profiles, then this is a nice camera. However, keep in mind it isn't perfect, it doesn't have the electronic viewfinder, the battery life isn't the best, but other than that, this is still a great camera. What do you think of it? Let me know in the comments down below, and thank you so much for watching.